Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mondays with You and Me, this time on a Tuesday. Arbury Road's most professional, in-depth, expert-only discussion. Now, it's just a joke. We're going to chat about some important topics in a relaxed manner, as always. With me, as usual, is Paco. Paco, how are you doing?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, really good, really busy, really excited to be here.
Good to see you back again. We're also joined this week by Rachele Scarpa. Rachele, how are you doing?
No, fine, thank you. I'm
Good.
here in Padua, not seeing the sunlight for many days, but that's all right.
Pandemic life, I suppose. So, this week, the focus of our conversation is going to be the Recovery Fund. So, the Next Generation EU, the project, what it is, why it's important, what the goals are, and maybe some of the issues that are still visible there in the project. So, Rachele, do you want to introduce the topic to us? Tell us what Next Generation EU is and how it came to be in existence.
Yes. Well, Next Generation EU is an added funding that the European Union is distributing towards nations. It originated. Its necessity was emerged with the pandemic. Countries really struggled with lockdowns and blocked economic and blocked their economies. So this was a big boost for the European Union to rethink of how should finance nations, member states, and how this money should be used and in towards which purposes. So it's a fund which is slightly different from regular European fundings, which are usually very controlled and regulated by Europe, and which are usually addressed more to local or regional targets more than the states themselves. While Next Generation EU is very state targeted. It gives a lot of responsibility to single nations in the writing of their plan of using this big amount of money. We're talking about like 750 or more billions of euros. Yes, the European Union will have to revise each state's plan and will check if it fits the three main directions Europe gave to use this money, which are to use for ecological sustainability, for digitalization and technological innovation, and also for social inclusion and cohesion, I think, with a particular attention for topics such as gender equality and youth empowerment. So it's a lot of money given to states with very little implication,
obligation, maybe?
Obligation, yes. And it's quite new because it's originated with a common debt that the states are deciding to make towards the financial market. And we'll see how it goes. Each nation is writing their own plan right now. We should have ours in Italy, for example, in a few weeks, and we'll see how well it's written. In I think it's quite important to underline how big it's the impact of the fact that we are creating common debt, because it's new for Europe. It's and it's common debt without really big obligations. So not like the past. It's kind of a I'd say it's a victory for European institutions. And it's originated for sure from the pandemic, because I think two of the two positive outcomes of these whole situations will be hopefully the creation of a common sense, or of a bigger common sense in Europe. And it's not related to Next Generation EU, but it's opening also discussions about the taxation of the big patrimonies, the very, very rich people, companies, or polluters. So it's a step in this direction, and it's a fund, and we need to use it. And so I guess we'll talk now about how we're going to use it. Sorry for my English.
Oh, Rachele, don't worry at all. Don't ever apologize for your English. It's perfect. Okay. We love taxing rich people, and we love taxing polluters. Yeah. Paco, exactly. What do you have to add on the recovery fund?
Yeah, no, I agree with Rachele that is a really important step. I'm a little bit more like, I would say, is more of a better later than never, in the sense that, you know, we had to have a pandemic, a world pandemic, to arrive to finally have some Eurobond, basically, because, yeah, as Rachele was saying, most of this is going to, consistent part of this is going to be Eurobond, which is something that I think Europe should have employed already in the 2008 financial crisis. That would have helped to contain the dramatic humanitarian balance that the 2008 crisis produced, in terms of, you know, job losses, like in terms of people inequality increasing, people losing their jobs, and there are still countries which are paying basically debt, like Greece, for example. So I think it's a good step. It came a little bit too late. The other thing is, I am a bit less positive about the fact of not, like, I wouldn't say that the regulation are that little. Like, there are a lot of criteria the European states need to respect, in my opinion.
Such as?
Of course, you need to check that they actually do what you want them to do, so that they actually, as she said, contribute to these really important goals, green energy, economic innovation, and also, especially particularly important, I think, is youth unemployment. We are in a dramatic situation in many countries as far as youth unemployment is concerned. As always, it seems to me, as far as I had a look at them, again, we are still at the beginning of the process, that is still really bureaucratic, that there are still really a lot, the whole process is a bit slow. And my question to Rachele is a little bit, do you think this is going to be enough? Again, the youth unemployment is dramatic, gender equality as well. The situation is really bad in many countries. Italy is one of them. What's your opinion like? Even not as a, not a technical opinion, but really opinion as a person who is passionate about politics, who hopes to be a better Europe. Do you think this is going to be enough?
This is going to be enough. Well, I don't know, because I think we have to do a big cultural reset to do enough, especially on youth unemployment and on women's unemployment or inequalities. because I don't know if it's the same all across Europe, but I feel, for example, about youth unemployment, that we have a really big problem with the fact that it's a common sense. Everyone thinks that, everyone learns that if you're young, it's fair that you are underpaid and that you have to work for free for a certain period of your life for free, or for a very, very low wage, to have some dignity in your work. And I think this is a big obstacle we have to set, as well as for the gender issues, because it's very rooted in our culture that women need to stay at home, and they need to do all of the care work, and that's and they don't really have the qualities to handle power or responsibility. So I think that well, the money could be enough for a first step, but the process isn't only an economic one. Also, I think that it won't be enough, because I think that measures like the Next Generation EU should be not a one shot. They should be, we should have another Next Generation EU in a few years to say that we are changing things. So yes, probably if an occasion, a single funding one time and then goodbye, it won't be enough probably. So we'll see.
Definitely.
I don't know.
Another question on this, like I guess you have a lot of friends a bit younger than me and Dermot, so perhaps who are still entering the job market or facing these difficulties. Are they understanding like this? Because the other part that I always see in this kind of funding is that there is a lack of communication by the EU. Like, do you think, are we as European Union being able to make younger people understand the importance of this step, understand that there are new possibilities, or does it seem still like as this abstract, project which is too bureaucratic? And what do you think?
Yeah, I think at this moment it still looks quite abstract. I think, for example, my perception of public opinion is relative, but I think that it was perceived, for example, when Giuseppe Conte, the former prime minister here, obtained quite of a large sum of the Next Generation EU for Italy. It was perceived, but I don't think there's any perception of the discussion around it or the direction in which the plans are going. So people maybe think that we're gonna receive lots of money from Europe, but it's not clear how much we will have to return. It's not clear how it will be spent, or when it will have an impact on our lives. So yes, I'm not sure this is very perceived, and I think there is a problem, a communication problem about this, because it's not really clear, and also for informed people isn't simple to even create opinion. Consenso, it's not consent. Come si dice consenso?
Okay.
Consensus.
Consensus, yeah, sorry.
Consensus, okay. I was saying consent, but it's not the same.
A little different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, so I think there is still lots of work to do about this, because we need for the social categories to advocate for themselves to get the funding. We need workers to say, fund our rights. We need women to stand up and say, give us money. We need the students to raise their voice. And if these categories remain silent because they are misinformed, it will be a problem probably, because rich people do know how to advocate for themselves. So rich people, the powerful one.
This is one of the areas that worry me about the fund, is that youth unemployment is extremely high. Are students going to go and demand money? Probably not. As you say, it's always the richest, the people who need the money the least that are the best at getting the money,
Yeah.
How do we motivate young people to go out and kick and scream until they get the money and the jobs that they need?
Yeah. Well, I think young people are motivated, but not about everything. We had young people raising about climate justice. We really hadn't seen before. So I hope that it will be soon clear that climate justice, racial, social, gender equality, fair jobs, and economy are all problems that are very linked. How can we help them, make them rise? I guess it's us, so maybe we should just speak more, talk more, be more active. Yes, I don't really have an answer for that. We all do our small part by
reading Arbury Road.
By doing activism.
Of course.
Reading Arbury Road, yes.
Okay, so Paco, do you want to tell us about your main man, Salvini? What he's been up to this week?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So there was this meeting on the past Thursday of a sort of, I imagine it a little bit like, Star Wars, the return of the Empire Strikes Back. Like these like really evil characters meeting. So it was between Salvini, Orban, the Hungary's prime minister, and Morawiecki. How do you pronounce it? I never like
Morawiecki?
Morawiecki.
I don't know. My Polish isn't great, to be honest.
Yeah, mine neither. We are expanding still in Poland in terms of team, but so we will have more Polish people. Now, so like this sort of meeting of the evil characters in Europe, and they met to basically they talked about this new alliance done to create a sort of European Renaissance based on Christian values. It's basically a European version of Make Europe Great Again, like of Make America Great Again, so Make Europe Great Again. What is astonishing, would be funny if it wasn't tragic, is that, of course, how they refer to Renaissance, and there is a complete lack of historical knowledge, talking about Christianity and Renaissance, where actually Renaissance was the opposite in a way, like was the moment when, after centuries of oscurantism, where everything you could study was about God and theology, basically, was the return to the reason. So in a way, was a little bit anticipating the Enlightenment later on, and was the return to put humans at the center of the study. We have, of course, great figures like Leonardo da Vinci, but also there was the starting of, in a way, modern human rights that again, then during the Enlightenment became sort of society-wise accepted. And it's funny that they talk about Renaissance countries which are clearly violating now the rule of law and basically many of the human rights and many of the values of the European Union. The other funny bit, particularly for Salvini, of course, for Orban, this makes sense because they just left Fidesz, his party just left the Conservatives.
Mhm.
Salvini, I think is a sign of bipolarity, but like he's a bit bipolar in the sense that he's at the government in Italy now with the Draghi government. He voted in favor of the recovery fund at the European level, and he declared that the Lega Nord is pro-European and is siding the European Union. So yeah, I don't know. I think the guy is a bit confused, and same people in his party are saying that they don't understand anymore which is the political line. Yeah. So I think the guy is a bit confused.
I mean, it's not really surprising that these guys are okay with the recovery fund, because there's no, the rule of law mentioned in the recovery fund is so vague, so open, they can just abuse it. They don't have to. It's really disappointing that the rule of law stipulation in the recovery fund wasn't precise, you know?
Yeah. We will see how it is applied, of course, because then
yeah.
I hope that there will be still pressure from the other countries. Again, well, we said it many times in many podcasts, that, you know, the European Union seems really, really present when it's time to respect economic laws, a little bit less when it's time to respect human rights and the rule of law again. So yeah, it's really disappointing that
they can't just continue to sit back and assume things will be okay. You know, there's real division appearing in Europe at the moment. The pandemic has shown that, a lot of nationalistic rhetoric and nationalistic tendencies. But the solution isn't to just keep doing what you're doing and say, okay, we won't push too hard. You know, I'm worried.
And this also scares me a little bit because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that if this group was formed with Salvini, Orban, and I'm pronouncing yeah, it would be like the second one of the biggest groups. It will be quite influenced.
A lot of people, Poland, Italy, and Hungary. That's a lot of people.
So it wouldn't be possible anymore to leave aside a little bit the sovereignist part in the European institutions. So from the main chairs, from the main position of responsibility, I think. Yes, this is really, really dangerous.
Yeah, Italy getting involved. Italy is a key part of Europe. It always has been, you know. Salvini joining that alliance is a little bit very, very scary, I think.
Yeah. And also it really amazes me how he's able to maintain consensus with such a radical contradiction in his way of acting. We in Italy are really, really used to contradictions in politics. Every party has its side. The left also does. We said we wouldn't be in a government with the Lega 2 days ago, and here we are. So used to it. But Salvini is contradictory, really, in the core values of his policy, in what he says, what he does in Europe and in Italy. It's like really, really confusing. If I was a voter of Lega, I would be really, really angry.
Yeah, we have the opposite problem in Ireland. All the parties are exactly the same, and they pretend like they're not. There's no difference. All right. On that note, I wouldn't mind mentioning Northern Ireland because the place has been wild for the last 4, 5, or 6 nights. There's been police getting attacked with petrol bombs, dozens of people getting arrested, dozens of police injured. And a lot of this has come from since Brexit, you know. Once Brexit happened, there was a new border, let's say, in the Irish Sea between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK. Now, what doesn't help is that they decided last week not to prosecute 25 Republican politicians who broke the COVID regulations to go to a funeral of a man who used to be essential in the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, national terrorists, essentially. So that place is really, it's a very delicate situation. Paco, have you been looking into this at all?
Yeah, but of course, I let you mainly talk about this in the sense that is, as an Irish person, probably something you can tell more about, has more about. And what I was thinking is also like, it's interesting because like, if I'm not wrong, there are certain polls which suggest that Northern Ireland, if not imminently, but in the near future, actually there is a growing consent towards leaving the UK and sort of unifying Ireland. And I think, if I'm not wrong, that this is also in conjunction with the fact that the Catholic population, which is of course closer to Ireland culturally, in Northern Ireland is growing way faster than the Protestant.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong in what you've said at all. Like, the conversations are growing. Of course, as soon as they announced Brexit was going to happen, the conversation restarted being, okay, let's have a united Ireland. I think people need to relax about the idea of a united Ireland, okay? First of all, there's 1 million people who live in Northern Ireland who identify as British. Who are we to tell them how to decide their own self-determination, Anyway, people should be able to be whatever they want to be. The most important, I mean, you have these polls coming out now saying they want to have a referendum because, first of all, if we want to have a united Ireland, there will have to be 2 referenda. First of all, in the North and then in the Republic. I think in the Republic, it will pass pretty easily. But the North is still very close to 50-50. And if we've learned anything from Brexit, it's that if a vote is 51-49, maybe it's not the best idea to go through with the suggestion. I think people need to relax with the idea of a united Ireland. But the most important thing is the peace process, In 1998, they had the Good Friday Agreement. This took decades to really come about and to come into force. And it's been amazing since then. The deaths and violence and troubles have been significantly down through the 70s, 80s, 90s. It was a mess. If you'll excuse my French, it was a shit show. Now things are better, but of course, with Brexit and with also the pandemic and everything doesn't help, People are bored. They don't have anything to do. Definitely. I understand what's happening. I would definitely forget for now about the idea of the Northern Ireland joining the Republic. It's not the most important issue. The most important issue is peace,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I've got to say on that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Brexit brings us back to, as you were saying, a period that we hope to have passed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've had such a step backwards in the last 5 years. And then the pandemic on top just makes it so easy for these nationalists to feed into people's fears and people's worries to get their agenda across. Anyway, that's enough about Ireland for one day, I think. Paco, what about Bulgaria?
Never enough about Ireland. Never enough about Ireland, I'm saying.
Yeah, this is it. What about Bulgaria, Paco? We had elections.
Bulgaria. So again, finishing this sort of portrait of European politics, is another country, of course, which is warring. A bit different from Hungary, but also there, there was a nationalist alliance, which in many ways, there are certain tensions about respecting human rights and all the rest. So another country where I would say, which we need to observe, it's quite interesting. There were, so the election, of course, last week. And basically what happened is that Borisson, the current prime minister, and his party won the election, but they lost a lot of votes. They got 32.6% in the previous election in 2017. This time they only got 26%. Which is not surprising because they were accused of corruption. There were a lot of manifestations against the government, and they were basically, Borisson was invited in many occasions to resign. what is surprising though, so there is a situation now where it's not clear if they will be able to form a government, and who will form a government. What is surprising, I was saying, is that a new party, which, if I'm not wrong, is called People or something like that, a sort of populist party born only in 2020, with the goal of asking for the elections, actually, so to bring to the election, is now the second party in Bulgaria with 17%, while the bad news is that the socialists only got 15%.
Really bad. Really bad.
They were expected to do more. Now, I'm not an expert, of course, of politics in Bulgaria. I think it's really worrying now that this instability that there is in Europe. But again, I really wish we had an expert to talk with.
What a coincidence, Paco. Later this week, we're going to have a podcast on Bulgaria with a local expert. So we have that to look forward to. I'm glad you brought that up.
Spontaneous.
Yeah, this is it. One last thing before we close off the show for tonight. This is about China. So as I'm sure people are aware, there's been a lot of stories coming out over the last few weeks and months about slave labor in China, particularly slave labor of, I think it's pronounced Uyghur Muslims. So here's a list of companies who recently removed their policy on slave labor after pressure from the Chinese government. So you have Inditex, which owns Zara, Massimo Dutti, and many others. PVH, which own Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger. You also have Hugo Boss, Fila, Asics, The North Face, Vans. If you enjoy any of those brands, just remember you're supporting slave labor in China. That's the closing message of the day. Rachele, Paco, thanks a million for joining me. It was a pleasure as always.
Thanks to you.
Thank you.
And as Paco said, we'll be back on Friday to talk about Bulgaria, the elections, and what it means for everyone in Europe. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.